So hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Swan Pricing Show, where we talk about pricing for expert services, which has very little to do with the pricing logic of commodities and commoditized services. I am Filip Vucic. I'm a pricing mentor. And yeah, go on.
I'm Filip Zolota, CEO of Growth Marketing Agency Moya.
And today we promised we were going to talk about going market rates. Well, not so much as talk about them, but talk against them behind their back, something like that. The main thing that I resent about the idea of going market rates, although they're the simple solution and the easy solution, they're not necessarily a good solution, because there's a big difference between, and I think we talked about this, low variance services and high variance services, right? So some services are very similar to each other, in effect, in what you get, and expert services are not like that. Because it almost, so if we're talking about minimum level of professionalism here, it almost doesn't matter who washes your car, but it very much matters who takes your case to court. When people see you charge at the going market rate, it looks like it doesn't matter, right? It looks like your services are exactly equal in all meaningful intents and purposes to anybody else charging the going rate, and I don't think that's a good idea, right?
Yeah.
So would you know an example of where that backfired?
Definitely, especially in the field of expertise-based business, where people are kind of comparing things which are kind of uncomparable. They are presenting their service with specific price like a commodity. And the problem is, we can take maybe the example of development. So a professional who's a senior, that person simply requires smaller chunk of time to resolve some of the issues, some of the problems. In the same time, junior or mid-year developer requires triple the amount. And that is big difference. And if that is also being followed by the hourly rate component, then we have an additional set of problems.
Sure, because I know people do charge for more for senior services, just not enough, not more enough.
Exactly.
So I have seen cases where the company is making money on its worst, most junior developers. It's actually losing money on their best ones because they're like 60 times as efficient, and they can't charge 60 times more. So they end up pulling their punches and starving their best people of work, because they found out that this actually reduces the final bill, and that makes no sense, right? And so the question is, what exactly are they getting? Now, sometimes the nominal answer to this seems even too easy. So when I talked to a photographer, and I asked, so what are your clients? What do your clients want from you? And he said he does portraits, right? Professional ones. And he said, well, a photograph. I said, that's almost certainly not true. They have a mobile phone. They can take a photograph any day, right, for free. So there's something else about the photograph. So yeah, it's a photograph, but there's something else about that, and not the fact that it's a photograph. So they want to look serious. They want to look professional. So they want a photograph on which they look professional. But that's a major subset and it has some um, pricing ramifications, right?
Mhm.
Because his photograph and a free photograph are both photographs, and he is much more expensive.
Yeah.
And for a going market rate for a photograph for a document, you would get a much worse photograph because its use is something else, and you can get it in 10 seconds, and it just requires you to be on a blank background, and that's it, right? And
Mhm.
that's don't try using your photographs meant for documents for like social media.
That would be awesome.
I did that once. I did that for Facebook.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it didn't
Awesome.
last long. People
Yeah, yeah,
somehow
yeah.
people figured me out. Uh so yeah. From personal experience, it doesn't work, don't do it. So obviously, even a professional photograph is not a professional photograph. So it's meaningless to say, well, a professional photograph should cost this. What's a professional photograph,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. I have one example, maybe to add on in
Yeah.
controlling in finances. I have one client, business friend, and a partner. We had that crazy discussion about the pricing, the approach, and everything. And the problem was, okay, I'm doing the hourly billing rate. My hourly rate is this. I say to the client that we need on a monthly base 20, 30 hours of activity to resolve some specific problem and issue. And the problem is the same type of the service on the same scale was being given to that client or any other. Where the problem lies? The problems and challenges aren't the same. The size of the company, the complexity level, the challenges cannot be the same. And also what is very important, and for me, very funny, when somebody says, so proud of themselves, my hourly rate is like this. Cool, awesome. And how it's compared to the problem or challenge you resolve for the company. I had specific case, my friend, partner, and a client resolved $1 million issue. And he was asked several $100 for that service. How is that logical? How is that logical?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is simple example when things are happening definitely on the wrong side in
Yeah.
terms of the approach to the price positioning, price setup, and overall 360 around the problem, the challenge that specific professional needs to resolve, because not everybody can resolve that specific issue for that company. And the end of line, that company spoke and decided to go with my colleague for a reason, and they made the price dump by default for practically no reason. Yeah.
So not only are the services not the same when we're talking about expertise, the results of the services are not the same.
Exactly.
So even if the service was the same, it has a completely different market value, if you like, when you do it for a mom and pop pizza shop and when you do it for I don't know, a national pizza chain.
Exactly.
Right. Even if your work was exactly the same at both times, its value is completely whack. So in any case, it doesn't really make sense to go with a going market rate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's a really good thing when the service is basically fixed and the value is basically fixed. It will vary 10-15%, right? But not this much, right? And the other problem that I have with going market rates is that they are almost punitive as you get better.
Yeah.
Because as you get better, it will take you, as you mentioned with the developers, it will take you less time to do something.
Exactly.
And then you're getting paid less. And also for some services, for actually many expert services, the clients are more happy when you give them less hours, or when it takes you less hours to solve something.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go to my dentist 6 times for him to fix a problem. I want to go 1 time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a better service if it's less hours. And yes, you can charge a higher rate, but then you're not going by the going rate, right? And
Yeah.
okay, so maybe there's a going rate for higher services, but you are going to keep getting better and better. One thing that I like to talk about with clients is, okay, so you're pretty good now at what you're doing, right? Right. So how long have you been doing this? Oh, 15 years. Okay, cool, cool. How much do you think that your value has grown through time? So your value now compared to your value 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's probably 6 to 8 times more. Cool.
Awesome.
Cool. Is your hourly rate 6 to 8 times higher than them? No, it usually isn't. What that means is that as you get better, you leave more and more and more and more money at the table until you get to the glorious state of your colleague that you mentioned, where he solves a really serious do or die issue for peanuts and is proud of it.
Yep.
So that's we like to talk about the duck case and the swan case, right? The commodity and the non-commodity case. And going rates are a really good solution for commoditized services, but they're a really, really bad fit for non-commoditized services. For all of the reasons that we stated here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So would you say that some types of work are more susceptible to this, or even better, do you know a case where we're talking about expertise-based services here, where going rate does make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay. What in a case where it does make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, if we can compare one specific technical, okay, yeah, for example, tech support on specific level, which has clear outline of the requirements, and that means it's comparable with wide area of service providers in that specific case and scenario, with service level agreement, quality of service, the dedicated staff, etc., that is something which can be seen from that specific perspective. But when you have more complex situations, the problems, the challenges and issues, in that specific case, the going rate component simply won't work.
So if I understood you correctly, if a client can tell exactly what they're getting,
yeah,
then it makes sense.
Yeah.
So if I say how much is 10 eggs or a dozen eggs, right? I know what an egg is. I know I'm getting chicken eggs, not duck eggs. I'm not turtle eggs, not, you know. So I know what I'm getting here. So it's fine for me to simply ask how much. And when you tell me how much, then I know everything that I needed to know, right? But if I asked you, Philip, can you write me a 10-page report on this? What's a 10-page report? Who's writing it? How are their English skills?
Meant to read in the end. Who will read it, and what information do we need to have in that document?
So a 10-page report can be anything. Right? It can range from a complete waste of time to you know, a multi-million project builder. So with that kind of variance, that this is what I call high variance, right?
Yeah.
It makes no sense to say, aha, well, you charged way too much for your 10-page report. Usually people charge me about $1,000 and you're asking for, I don't know, 6. You okay. We're going to have to go into details here, right? Because a 10-page report, it's like when sometimes when people ask, yeah, but could you just estimate how much the total cost could be? Sure, but it's not going to be useful for some project or something like that, because it's like asking how much for 2 full shopping bags of stuff. Yeah, what stuff?
What stuff? Yeah. What is the stuff into that basket? I have one a crazy example also.
Go.
Considering reports. More often than not, 1-page reports are the most expensive ones. Why? They're a product of several months, several iteration of analysis, etc., especially if they are dedicated to decision makers who need to see the challenge. Aha, that's it. Make the decision based on that, and yeah, push forward.
Executive summary. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And that is sometimes I had the case where, this is only 1-page, 2-page document. How much is that costs such a big amount of money? Yeah, it's a 2-month work.
But why, right? It doesn't,
yeah.
It doesn't take that long to type. Yeah, the typing is not the point. So
anybody can type. The point is, what information we have, what information we landed into that document, the substance and the value it gives to the reader, and that's it.
I don't know which famous writer it was writing to his nephew. Somebody will know. But he says, so I'm sorry this is so long. I didn't have time to make it shorter. So he's writing in a hurry, so it's going to be a long ramble rather than something succinct, right? And in my first business, we were making board games for companies that wanted to sell off some things from their so they had toys which they couldn't sell, so we made a board game that included these toys, which they could then be repackaged as among other things, but that was a thing back then. And then they asked me, trying to reduce the price, could you just fit the rules on like half a page, right? And I said, yeah, I probably could. That's like 6 months of work. So if you want the rules on 30 pages, that's like 2 weeks of work. And condensing that to a 4-page document, that's maybe an extra month. And then an extra month or 2 to get it to like 1 page, and then maybe 2 more months or more to get it to half a page. That's how it goes, right? So it's really easy to direct people using 30 pages. Nobody would like to read that. Yes, right? But that's easy, and that's the typing part, right? That's condensing that in a way that it doesn't take away from the experience, and saying a lot with few words. That takes knowledge, that takes time, that takes testing and retesting, and that's why this costs this much, right? You couldn't do that. I mean, not ethically. You couldn't do that and know that you did any kind of a good job without like 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds of testing with different kinds of people. So there was no quick way to do that, and it was counterintuitive. And this is why sometimes output-based pricing doesn't have any sense,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because I only get half a page.
okay.
I have a colleague that I also have a show with called The Experts Gap, and one of his great maxims is people are going to pay you more the less words you use.
Yeah.
So that's about it, and that's completely uh a really bad idea if you're planning on going with going rates.
Yeah.
So don't do going rates, kids.
Yeah, and don't focus on literary artwork, but condense the case and be straight to the point, because clients are buying the results.
For sure, not inputs, not outputs, but the results. Sure.
Exactly.
And we talked about this, and our first episode was on price fairness, and so it's all involved here, right? The idea is, I actually did find also, you mentioned one, I found another case where going rates are okay, which is when you're just entering the market, and you have no idea about what to begin with. Finding out the going rate is fairly simple. You can sometimes you can find it, but sometimes you can simply ask, and people are not going to tell you their best price, but they're going to tell you their asking price, their first price, right? Get a few of those from a couple of older colleagues, and you'll get a good sense of this. And this is a great starting point. Just don't dwell there for years, right?
Yeah.
Some of the most tragic cases, which turned out great, but I found people who got into this, got the going rate business, and then stayed there for years. And when we made a realistic assessment of what they could charge, it turned out they were 3-4 times under charging by a factor of 4.
Yeah.
So that's tragic, right? So going rates, at when you're not sure you know what you're doing, sure, use it.
Good entrance points. Yeah. You need to start from somewhere, and that's it. That's okay.
Exactly. And yes, you can even I wouldn't advocate for doing this for a long time, but you can do your first client pro bono. So just you starting things out. Yes. Next 2 clients, you go with the I'm not so sure what I'm doing discount rate, and that's it. Then you're going at the going rate, and then you try and see what exactly can you do now that you know what you're doing, right? I think that's a good that's a good way of going about it.
Yeah, I agree completely.
So do you have any other example to say here?
Yeah, I have one great, almost tragic example, almost. A colleague of mine and a friend, he's in network infrastructure business for 20 years. 20
Oh, wow.
years. And 12 years, he was asking the price below everything meaningful. Luckily, he made a big turn, a big switch towards the actual result he is creating and delivering, because it was crazy. He wasn't able to engage with additional contractors, partners, employees, simply due to the pricing strategy, which was wrong. He was overwhelmed with business, but it wasn't profitable. Without profit, without redundancy, the adequate plan, you cannot scale, you cannot employ people, you cannot take additional resources, and build business, which is at the end of line a natural thing to happen, having business. But as I said, luckily, he resolved that issue, scaled, and never looked back.
This is a common case, I think,
Yeah.
of when people try to get themselves away from the going rate. They I don't think I know a case of somebody going back and saying, no, this was actually better. It's a really bad fit. So if we're talking about things that rules that are made for ducks, not swans, this is one of the major ones. So going rates are simply bad place to be.
Yeah.
And I encourage anybody who hears this and maybe has the symptom or knows somebody that has the symptom that you just described, which is somebody, you know, really busy with work, they don't know, don't have the time to breathe, right? And so a lot of clients and this and that, and basically having despite being so sought after, has absolutely no peace with their work life. This is usually due to undercharging, and I've maybe the most cases that I've seen of people defending their own price, which is objectively too low, is saying, well, that's how much this costs. And then when we unpack this includes stuff that other people don't include, and their networks and their experiences and their overall value is way above what is usually done, right? I worked with a guy that does business plans, okay, but he figured out that most of his clients don't really know how to do market research, so he does that as well for the same price as everybody else charges business plan. He will also do that because, you know, it just needs to be done right. But then you're not actually providing the same thing. You're providing a lot more and you're charging the same. So you're absolutely underpricing, right? So you shouldn't be paid less because you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And you are.
And you know what? There's one additional component, an amazing example you mentioned, is the fact that people already convert and engage with clients and customers. They're overly optimistic. Oh, no problem, we'll do this in the same price. No, wrong. On all the levels, on all the levels possible and visible out there. Also, what I wanted to mention, and you helped me to get to that point, is that there is also one important trigger in business closing by default. If you are receiving acceptance, and yes, way too often, there is potentially one problem there. If you are piling numerous clients, like the example I mentioned with my colleague in networking and infrastructure business, there is for sure some of the problem. The prices are inadequate, and you need to do something probably about that, because in the end of line, being clogged with so many projects and everything, and you are struggling with delivery and everything else, it's counterproductive by default, and that can be reflected and compared in any business niche, and it often happens to people if they've stuck. And what also we can say, going rates can be a temporary solution, but long term, absolutely counterproductive and very problematic from the perspective of profitability and you scaling your business and going forward.
Cool. I think we talked enough about this, and I think we should talk next time about the quiet discounts that you just said. So I'm going to do the same thing for a lot more for the same price. So let's do that. just to wrap it up, Philip, where can people find you?
People can find me on the LinkedIn as always, and on my page maoyo.agency, both with my consultancy practice, maoyo.consulting.
And in my case, I'm also fairly active on LinkedIn, but I also have a YouTube channel and an active newsletter. And I'll include the link for all of that in the description. People, thank you very much for listening, and I'll hear you next time on the Swan Pricing Show.
See you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.